Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of the Mumbai Manifesto. Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of the Mumbai Manifesto, where we deep dive into the magic and the madness that make up the city of dreams. We have with us today a very special guest, somebody I've worked with very closely, Mr. Sanjay Ubale. Mr. Sanjay Ubale has been a bureaucrat par excellence with the Maharashtra cadre. He headed the Mumbai Transformation Project way back between, I think, 2006 to 2010. He has an amazing journey to the IAS. He's got a degree in physics as a graduate degree. He's got an MBA from the Jamnalal Bajaj Institute, and then he did his IAS and joined the Maharashtra cadre. He's had a decorated career as an IAS officer with some of the biggest responsibilities in the state government. Of course, he's moved across the length and breadth of Maharashtra, but Mumbai has been his karma bhumi. At the height of his career, he moved from the IAS service into the corporate sector with one of the biggest names, Tata's, and he headed the Tata Realty vertical of the conglomerate. Moving from Tata's, he then went to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the largest philanthropic organization in the world, and he headed that working out of Delhi. So his experience in the government, in the corporate sector, in the not-for-profit sector has been really unique and amazing. Today, he is an advisor with Mumbai First, a public policy think tank that works out of Mumbai City. Mr. Sanjay Ubale, welcome to the Mumbai Manifesto.
Thank you. Thanks.
Now, Mr. Ubale has been part of one of the most incredible initiatives that this city has ever seen. Energy for the transformation of Mumbai like never before. The Mumbai Transformation Project was a very ambitious project. It looked at the holistic transformation of Mumbai. It had a secretariat which was separately carved out, and Mr. Sanjay Ubale was the Secretary for Special Projects working out of the Mantralaya for the government of Maharashtra. Every single department and every single bureaucrat that had anything to do with Mumbai was involved with this project, very seriously, very committedly. The state government offered a lot of support. The private sector for the first time came in with a lot of support as well. We had the likes of Anand Mahindra, Noel Tata, Jamshed Godrej, Deepak Parekh, many more who would come religiously, regularly to take stock of all the projects, to take stock of all the progress and the work on each of these projects, give their views and support for the transformation of Mumbai. Rooted in the Vision Mumbai document that came out of the stables of Mackenzie and Mumbai First, this looked at everything across all sectors, from education to transportation to public health care. No stone left unturned. The project had a series of successes and some challenges that came with it. Mr. Ubale, would you like to share what was your experience with the Mumbai Transformation Project being center stage?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks first of all for having me on this show of yours. I would say that that my experience with the Mumbai project as Secretary Special Projects from the government of Maharashtra was probably one of the most satisfying one. I think what we were probably able to do was create a vision for the city, create a kind of action plan which could have been implemented in the next 5 to 10 years, and essentially get all the relevant stakeholders on the table to make things happen. So, and the genesis of that was that Mr. Vilasrao Deshmukh used to be the Chief Minister at that time. With MMRDA, Chandrasekhar was the Commissioner of MMRDA. So he was working on two missing links, the Santa Cruz Chembur Link Road and the JVLR, Jogeshwari Vikhroli Link Road. So when these two projects were coming up and the groundbreaking was to happen at that time, so I went up to the Chief Minister and said that, look, when we are doing infrastructure projects, there has to be a reason why we are doing these infrastructure projects. And unfortunately, we really don't have a vision for the city of Mumbai. Where does the city needs to go? And currently the way, and at that time the way the situation was, that cities like Hyderabad, cities like Bangalore were very, very quickly catching up with Mumbai. And Mumbai was losing a lot of its preeminence. So we said that we need to do something for Mumbai, and we need to create that space, allow cities like Hyderabad and Bangalore to come up. But we need to take a position which is much higher than them. We probably need to start competing with the likes of Dubai, with the likes of Hong Kong and Singapore. And therefore, Mumbai needs to upgrade itself more as an international city. So, and to make that happen, what is the infrastructure development that we need to do for the city? What are the other things that we need to bring about? What are the governance reforms that we need to bring about? So we need to look at Mumbai as a holistic issue, where in which we need to prioritize all that we do based on the kind of vision that we have for the future. And we were able to create that vision for the city, which was, I think, quite a big achievement. And the reason why we got a lot of support from the corporate sector, and we actually invited the corporate sector to be a part of it. Tremendous amount of support from the not-for-profits, the NGOs. In fact, we got a lot of support from the media, judiciary at that point of time. Mainly because everybody was kind of vested with some kind of an interest in this city's future, and which was very satisfying. So we used to have a lot of heated arguments, a lot of constructive debates, but we were all moving towards a common goal of making the city a better place. So in terms of, I think, what worked, I think getting everybody on the same page certainly worked. We had a whole lot of projects which were planned at that time. We are seeing either most of those projects are completed or in the process of getting completed. You look at the several metro lines which have been which are now going to be completed. The airport at that time was in the process of being developed. That's been completed. Navi Mumbai Airport was also on the drawing board. That should be completed next year. We had the link between Worli and Bandra that got completed. So there is the Trans Harbour link has now been completed. So Dharavi redevelopment is on the drawing table again. So there are several. I'm just giving you a few examples of those.
So not in the timeline that was envisioned, but eventually a lot of those ideas have.
But the good thing is that if you visualize something, if you think about something, that it happens. That's the point that I want to make. It may happen within the given timeline that you might have had, but it'll definitely happen, even if it's a little delayed. It'll definitely happen. But the important thing is to visualize that future, and that I think we were able to do. Till that point of time, nobody really thought of Mumbai's future. Let me give you another example. We used to also think that railways, for example, is a central issue. We got nothing to do with railways. So whenever something pertaining to railways came up, we said that we used to write to the central government. But we realized that it concerns 60 million people of Mumbai.
Correct.
And therefore, even if railways are operated by the center, but we should be having very strong interest in railways. And therefore, we worked very closely with the railways at that time. So the additional lines happened during that time.
MRVC also.
MRVC came in even before we.
No, but it got more empowered, I think.
It got empowered, but additional rakes, additional railway lines, air conditioning of the local trains, all of that happened during that time. So I think we got the central government also in the picture, and then worked with them and the local stakeholders to make these things happen.
I think that's amazing to think that in a city like Mumbai, where there's always a blame game within government agencies, where there's such cutthroat competition within corporate houses, there's such a trust deficit, that such an energy was created, and bringing everyone together for the common good of this city is not an easy task, and you did accomplish that. You were, of course, as I've said before, front and center of this entire program and initiative. There are some criticisms as well. When we look at the Vision Mumbai, you mentioned some cities. You mentioned Hong Kong, you mentioned Dubai, you mentioned Singapore. The one you didn't mention was Shanghai. And the newspapers were splashing it, Mumbai to Shanghai. Dr. Manmohan Singh, when he was the Prime Minister, I think there was some overlap between Mr. Vajpayee and Manmohan Singh ji. And Mr. Manmohan Singh also visited, and he also took interest in this project. And that's when the Mumbai to Shanghai kind of thing became a big thing. And somewhere, if you look at it now, 20 years down the line, or nearly 20 years down the line, it does look a little capitalist and neoliberal. A shiny city, you want to mimic what you see in a developed Western city. Our realities are different. 6 out of 10 Mumbaikars live in slums. So some people would say that, this project is a little capitalist, it's a little neoliberal. How would you respond to some kind of criticism of this sort?
Yeah, so I think firstly, let me just say a little bit about the word Shanghai. Actually, this was something that was not put out by us in that sense, but I think it was mentioned by the then Prime Minister. And we said it actually just captures the imagination of people, because, if at all you want to capture the future of a particular city and you say that, okay, can I benchmark myself against Shanghai, for example? Could have been Singapore, or it could have been some other city as well. Then it just captures somebody's imagination. It's an idea. It is not necessarily that we want to mimic that city. And if you see on the ground, we've actually not mimicked that city. It's not glitzy, it's not shiny the way Shanghai is. So it was just an idea. And the good thing about an idea is that people can dissect it, people can criticize it. People, like you said, that a lot of people say that, what kind of city are you trying to create? Why Shanghai? Why not some other cities? So we said, okay, let's talk about it. What is it that you feel that city should be like? And that was a way in which we could actually get people to talk about what they thought about it. If we did not have that word, we wouldn't have had a whole lot of those engagements. So now that's one part about Shanghai. But in terms of the vision, our vision was actually pretty inclusive. So there were 5 pillars of that. One, of course, was infrastructure, because infrastructure was woefully inadequate as far as Mumbai was concerned. So infrastructure was a very big aspect of it. And that time we had planned almost about $60 billion of total investment, about 22 years ago, of total investment for the city to upgrade its infrastructure. Then we also looked at economic development as another aspect of it, because how do you create jobs for the people of the city? So that was the second pillar. The third pillar was housing, and you're talking about we were very cognizant that 40% of the population lives in slums. So what are we going to do about that? Housing was a third pillar. Fourth was environment. How in doing all of this, how do we manage the environment? So that was the fourth pillar, and the fifth one was social development. And social development has had a whole lot of other aspects like education and health. So these were the 5 pillars. So if you look at all the 5 pillars, actually, they don't look at anything glitzy. It doesn't talk about real estate development. It doesn't talk about anything which is like doing shopping malls or things like that. It was basically talking about all the fundamentals of any economy. And all of these are fundamentals. These are the pillars on which a city, or for that matter any country, can actually build. So the vision itself was not neoliberal or elitist in that sense, but it was actually much more towards meeting the requirements of the city.
Maybe that's an impression that came about.
Yeah.
But since then to now, a lot has changed. In terms of our understanding of what constitutes a good city, what constitutes good urbanism. The world has moved forward in terms of technologies that are there, in terms of GIS technology, in terms of AI and big data to inform planning and things like that. Even the United Nations has moved from the MDGs to the SDGs in that time. There's been a sea of change. I'll come back to this because you also mentioned that till that point no one had looked at Mumbai this holistically, but that is fundamentally the job of the BMC, the municipal corporation or the MCGM. And they come out with plans periodically. They're called the development plans with a 30-year window for incremental change. And unfortunately, while the efforts have been sincere and we've had very good resources always within the BMC, these plans have never actualized. They've never materialized on ground. One had hoped for some change in the more recent development plan, but then again there was a lot of problems, and with that plan it had to go through so many iterations, and eventually it has skipped really the upgrades that the rest of the world has been able to benefit from in some of these lessons learned and technologies and things like that. There is a desperate need for a holistic plan for Mumbai. You mentioned that Mumbai's preeminence, I think, is well and truly gone now. No one's going to call it the best city in the country anymore, other than those who have some nostalgia associated with the good old days. If there's a new Mumbai transformation plan today, what would you do differently from what are your lessons learned, and what would you do differently?
So I think when you talk about development plan in the sense that it's currently used in the government, development plan is nothing but a land use plan. So it just to give you a little bit more of what a development plan consists of, it basically tells the people that I'm going to have a school here, I'm going to have some open spaces here, this is where the roads are going to be, this is where the new roads are going to be laid. So it's a two-dimensional plan of a city. That is what is a development plan. It can be very controversial. A lot of people don't want to give up their lands. A lot of people want to do something else with that land. Some people don't want to have it's called the NIMBY syndrome. I don't want to have kachra
Not in my backyard.
place behind my house. So it's a pretty intense exercise of actually defining what a development plan is. But I think development plan, in this simplistic sense, is not really what is really useful. What you need to really define is where you want to take the city, right? And to meet that requirement of the future, what is it that you need to do today, right? And your land use plan has to be based on what your city is going to need for the future in terms of where the city wants to grow. Today, the way the development plan works is that, okay, my population is going to grow this much, so there are going to be so many more children, so many more schools are required, so many more hospitals are required. So that's how the development plan gets worked out. But I think you also need to understand, in terms of making future plans also, is that city is like a living being. City keeps evolving over a period of time. City needs to change, city needs to upgrade, city needs to reinvent. There's several cities which have reinvented themselves, and several cities have decayed and died. So Mumbai also has reinvented itself. Mumbai also has actually evolved over a period of time. So we need to understand how the city is going to evolve in the future.
Sure.
So that is what I think. Now, I would think that in the days to come, and this is what happened in the 60s in New York as well, that there was a lot of gentrification of the city that happened. Now, what is gentrification? Gentrification means that a lot of the people were, and this might sound a little controversial, but it happened it was also controversial there in New York at that time. A lot of the low-end use of land got converted into high-end, which is what is currently happening incidentally in Mumbai. Which is SRA is what is happening. Redevelopment of the old dilapidated buildings. All of that is now replaced by high-rise buildings, probably more affluent housing. So this evolution will happen, but it's not all bad. For example, what might happen is a lot of people who are probably stuck in high-value property, okay, but are not necessarily having high incomes, might actually move into other areas and move in the surrounding areas like the MMR region in Navi Mumbai, in that area, and they'll probably take up jobs in those areas. So this kind of evolution of the cities keep happening, which is what I said, gave you the example of New York as well. Let me also give you another example where we are currently sitting, Nariman Point, for example. Okay, Nariman Point at one point of time, the costliest of real estate anywhere in the country, right? Today there are hardly any takers for this, and the reason why it's happened is because the structures are old. The structures are badly designed. I mean, they are old designs. They don't meet the modern requirements. There are no social amenities close by. So therefore, you'll find almost about 50 to 60% of the space here is vacant. Right?
No, we're going to have a dedicated section to South Bombay as a question. Yeah. So I'll ask you to just hold this thought. I just want to come back to 2 points that you alluded to earlier. By definition, what the development plan is a land use plan.
Yeah.
Clearly, those outside the government know that more is needed. The richest municipal authority doesn't have the capacity to evolve and say that a development plan in 2025 should no longer be a land use plan.
Correct.
That it has to be holistic. Why should it require it's not some tremendous intelligence that's required or some great amount of funding that's required. Yeah. I mean, when you have 80,000 crore rupees sitting in your kitty, it's unpardonable to say that we cannot have.
That's where you need people who are there at the helm of managing, say, BMC, for example, or managing the city as a whole. So I can tell you that, and based on what we studied in the past when we were working for Mumbai, that the fortunes of the city are driven by the people and the people's leaders, the political leaders, I would say. They're not driven by the bureaucrats like me. Okay, they're driven by the political leaders. They are the ones who drive. They are the ones who get all the stakeholders on board. They are the ones who create a vision. They are the ones who get people to buy into that vision. It's important for the city like Mumbai to have that. But Mumbai doesn't have that kind of a political entity, right? We don't have a directly elected mayor for the city who can actually drive the fortunes of the city. So somebody who's a corporator who's there only for 5 years is at best going to think only about his or her particular ward, right? He may not necessarily have the thought about the entire city. So we need to evolve for this, and this is easy to do. A whole lot of other cities have done it. But for that, we need to have a evolved leadership. Somebody who will be respected by the city as a whole, somebody whose word will count, and somebody who will thereby have an innate ability to visualize. And we've had those kinds of father figures for the city, and there are several of those in the past for the city. And a lot of what we have in the city is actually we owe to them.
Sure.
And who does remember a municipal commissioner? Who remembers a secretary in the government?
Right.
But you remember a whole lot of political leaders' names who drove the fortunes of the city till now.
Right.
But there's a certain gap now.
Right.
And so unless we bring back that political leadership for the city, we'll still be operating at a very suboptimal level, which is what we're currently
by
doing.
extension, the same would apply to a city like a Hyderabad and a Bangalore and so many other big metros other than Delhi across India, where there isn't a elected leader for the well-being of the city, really speaking, who's a single point of accountability. I think this is also a very interesting topic. We'll come to it.
By the way, Chennai has a directly elected mayor. So
okay.
Yeah, Chennai has. Hyderabad also was largely driven by the chief minister. I mean, chief minister virtually became the mayor of Hyderabad. Bangalore is a bit of a mess.
Right.
Bangalore is, I don't think I would call Bangalore as a very good example of an urban development.
Right.
But the success of Bangalore is largely due to IT and some of the IT-related services.
Correct.
But I would really call Bangalore as a success.
Coming to gentrification, a very interesting point. There used to be, Mumbai is about the Marathi Manus. And you had the bastions of the Marathi Manus, Paral, Dadar, Shivri, Girgaon. With gentrification, the Marathi Manus is the one who's principally disappearing from here, who's going and staying in Thane, Vasai, Virar, Mira, Bhayandar, Naugar, Manikpur, Badlapur, Kalyan, right? And it's one thing to say now this is market forces, okay? But there's a serious gentrification that's happening, and it's a rapid gentrification. Do you see a need for policy intervention here, or you should say let market forces just?
Well, I think, again, when we're talking about, whether Mumbai should be for Maharashtrians, if
no,
that
that's
is
not
what,
the point. I'm just saying that Maharashtrians are the ones who are eventually leaving.
Yeah.
Because of, this is the working class.
So you're saying they should not leave?
No,
right?
I'm just asking you whether there should be a policy intervention. What's your view on it? I don't have an opinion.
So I think once we accept that economic forces are the ones which are going to drive, and whether you like it or not, that's what is driving the cities, the countries everywhere. A lot of Indians have actually gone and driven the economic growth for United States, for example. And so it's not as if that we don't do the same thing somewhere else. So I think these are forces which cannot be stopped in that sense. But I think there's a lot that one can do. For example, even in terms of slum redevelopment or development of cess building, there's a lot we can do. Unfortunately, for development of cess building, we really don't have very good policies at the moment, which can retain people here in the city itself. So I think we can evolve those policies to see that people have a choice. When you're saying that people have to move out, that means they're moving not out of choice, but out of compulsion. So I think we need to give them choice, and it's possible for us to make those policies in such a way that people can exercise the choice in favor of living here.
Staying back, yes.
Yes. So they should not be forced out.
Right.
And it's possible for us to, currently I do agree that some of those policies are a little more, anybody who has more money can just throw money at you and then you're virtually forced out of a place. So I think those can be tweaked and then that can be changed.
Somewhere I feel also, it's creating ghettos of exclusion within the city. The idea of the gated community has become so central to Mumbai. I mean, and all over India in terms of large walls that separate you from the public space, and it's somehow not the essential fabric of Mumbai. Mumbai has been a very porous city otherwise.
No, I think Mumbai has been an inclusive city. I won't call it so. I mean, Mumbai, and there are huge advantages of being what it is. In fact, when I went and saw an exhibition of New York in the 60s, a lot of the culture, a lot of the art actually that got created during the 60s is invaluable.
Right.
It can't even be replaced.
Right.
And it got created in those ghettos, it got created in those relatively, you can call them impoverished areas. So there was a lot of value, and that value got evolved over a period of time. A lot of people from there came up and made a name for themselves.
Yep.
So it's not that they're impoverished. They're impoverished only from a monetary sense, but not in terms of talent, not in terms of ideas. So there is a lot of value around there, and that needs to be preserved. We have to really think how exactly we can preserve that value. But I've not really seen, including us, we are also guilty of that. We've really looked at these places as places of tremendous talent. Is not something, and that's in a sense a failure of ours as well, that we also were probably more elitist from that perspective. But we did not see these small pockets,
Right.
slums, as places of talent.
Right.
Which are just waiting to explore. And the hunger is actually out there.
Correct.
The hunger is out there. And I've always, in our internal discussions, I used to say that economic growth happens only because of hungry people,
Right.
not people who are satisfied. Economic growth doesn't happen with satisfied people.
Correct.
It's the hungry people who actually. So how do you channelize that energy for the city and for the state as a whole is something that I think we need to really think that through. To be honest, I've really not.
In a city like Mumbai, we're one of the few cities where you can call this the marginalized majority.
Yeah.
When 6 out of 10 people, close to 60% or little over maybe, stay in informal settlements, they are the marginalized majority. They have glass ceilings at every stage of their life. I think policy can play a beautiful role in removing at least some of these glass ceilings, so that journey from climbing up that ladder becomes a little easier for each of these members, and then they don't have to have the cyclical fate of perpetually living in these impoverished, often subhuman conditions that
Yeah.
many of them occupy.
So I think you raised an important point, and I think it's how do you make this transition happen? So unfortunately, what happens is that a lot of them, as you said, there's a kind of a glass ceiling out there. There's a limitation on what they can do. For example, if you look at education, the education may not necessarily be the best of education that might. The living conditions may not necessarily be the best conditions that they might be there. So how do you get the people out from that place? But there's also a lot of, you see, the voting is the highest in those areas. So what does that tell you? Does it say that there's a political engagement over there? There's also fear of losing whatever they have, and therefore they need to have a political power which actually protects them in that sense, right? But it also keeps them in the same place. So there's an interplay of economic forces, political forces, which kind of bind them into those places. So I think getting them out is, to my mind, I think gradually help them get into more the economic mainstream. What is not so much dependent on the government handouts.
Right.
So I think that dependency and increasingly I think there's a tendency of various governments to make people more and more dependent.
And that is much more to do with this marginalized majority,
Marginalization. So-
and therefore they seem to be more aware about who their elected representatives
Yeah.
are compared to a.
But that also creates a dependency, So, and which is what actually prevents people from moving out successfully out of that
Right.
level of poverty.
Right.
So it's people tying people down.
Right.
If at all you want to grow, then you need to free up people.
Right.
That's one thing that I've learned in these last 35 years of my, almost 40 years of my life.
Yes.
That you have to just liberate people, and they will show what they can do.
Right.
The government cannot tell people that you do this and you do this and you do this. It's a very suboptimal way of developing.
Sure. I think when we look at Mumbai, now that we mentioned the marginalized majority, and if you look at it spatially, right, you're able to see two distinct Mumbais. There's a slum Mumbai and there's a non-slum Mumbai. If you look at the Mithi River, it has splintered the city. Everything east of the Mithi River is 75% slum population wards, your M East. Some of them touch 80% slum population. And then everything below the Methi River, which is south of the city, particularly the west coast of the city, which is your A wards and your D wards and your G South. These wards are your uber-rich wards. The wealthier you are, the less politically engaged you are. It's also because I feel at some level that the dependency on the government is much lesser. You're not going to a government school, you're not going to a municipal school, you're never going to a private hospital.
Government hospital.
Right?
Yeah.
You're never going to, a government hospital. So, seems to be that there is this kind of large disconnect between the two. But this part of the city, the south of the city, along with the decline in the preeminence of Mumbai, has also seen a decline. We've had a negative population growth for the first time. Businesses, like the central business district that defined all of India and drove all of India, that engine in that small part of Mumbai between the Arabian Sea and the Thane Creek, that drove the entire country, that is also dying. Everything has moved out, some to BKC, some further north towards Andheri and Seeps, and the CBD has shifted. Now, this is a very elite part of the city, of the country. Do you feel there's a need to revive South Bombay, if at all? And if there's a need to revive, how does one go about reviving or reversing this trend?
Yeah. So I think, yes, I think there is I would not call it revive. I think it just needs to reinvent South Mumbai and this part of Mumbai, which is called the city of Mumbai, I think needs to be reinvented. You're right. For almost about 30 years, 3 decades now, the city population, the Mumbai city, and there's another city district called the Mumbai suburban district. The city district has been losing population. And this is again part of the gentrification. You know, people have actually moved from high value properties to the suburbs and bought houses there, sold their houses and bought houses there. Which is what will happen in the suburbs also. People will actually sell those after the prices go up there and move into the MMR region, and they'll take up jobs there. So this is a natural progression of a city that will happen. But I think what has also happened is that a lot of businesses also have moved out of this. And Nariman Point, as I said earlier, is a very clear example of almost about 50% of the space out there is vacant, and it's a highly suboptimal space. Most of the international companies or those who are big corporates don't want to set up their offices here. So I think that entire area is in need for redevelopment, and also you need to add some social infrastructure out there. There are no eateries, there are no places to go to. So I think that entire area needs to be. I had actually suggested this in our discussions. Also, is that the government is going to come out with the redevelopment of this area around Mantralaya. Okay, so Mantralaya, all the barracks where the ministers are living, so they want to redevelop that. So I'd said that why don't you look at the entire precinct, and not only Mantralaya, the adjoining area, but even the Nariman Point area for redevelopment. And the reason why you should be doing it is because, rightly, wrongly, we have added infrastructure here. Okay. Earlier we had only a local train coming up to Churchgate Station, right? Now we're going to have a metro coming up to Nariman Point, right? We're going to have a coastal road which is almost touching Nariman Point, right? So we have two big infrastructure assets that have got added here. And what has happened in the last 30 years, actually, the population has gone down. So in some ways, it is a bit of a wasteful expenditure. So therefore, what we can do is we can redevelop this area, raise some money out of it, and partially subsidize the expenditure that we've incurred on either the metros or on the coastal roads, so that organizations like BMC will probably get their money back into their coffers. So I think
like urban equity withdrawal.
Yeah, there could be. You can probably have a cess that you can charge for the extent of development that you do, and this is a massive area. The government can really earn a lot of money, at the same time redevelop this entire area. In addition to these two, even MTHL actually has added to the benefit of this area, because it comes very close right up to almost BT station, right? So there's a lot going infrastructure-wise as far as this area is concerned, but it has not been. There's no vision to redevelop this area.
Just to interject very quickly, as you're building the vision for a new Sobo or a renewed Sobo, South Mumbai, Are you looking at it to again become a commercial hub or something different in a new avatar altogether?
So, I mean, I've not really given it a thought whether it should be, but to my mind, I think it can be commercial because in terms of residential prices, I think the prices have here probably gone up, and a whole lot of people have actually moved into the suburbs. So, it could be commercial because that's where it was currently. So. I would say that commercial could be good, but there is another area which is waiting to be redeveloped, and that's the port land.
Correct.
It's almost about 2,000 acres of land which is waiting to be developed.
Right.
That needs to be done.
Correct.
We have and we need to create 3 or 4 additional big growth centers in the metropolitan region.
Correct.
So we not only in Navi Mumbai, in Kalyan Dombivli, in Thane, beyond that, I think we need to have another 3 or 4 commercial centers because whole lot of this population, which is probably going to move into those areas, and we can create businesses out there, which could be entertainment industry, it could be IT or whatever that might be, that can come up in those areas. And there could be gainful employment available into those areas. And that's how the overall MMR region can move. So we need to move away from just thinking about South Mumbai or Mumbai city or even for that matter, Mumbai corporation limits as a whole, but to move into the larger metropolitan region.
Yes, absolutely. Before we move into the metropolitan region, just something to do with the BMC. Clearly, it has been for the longest time the most efficient municipal corporation in the country. Preeminent again, much like the city of Mumbai. And Mumbai owes a lot to the BMC and the services and the quality of services that it has delivered. That's why we enjoy this quality of life. But in the recent years, that reputation has taken a serious downturn. It's taken a nosedive. And today it is associated with corruption, it is associated with incompetence. Maybe not audibly, but in the eyes of many people, if you talk to the common man, there's such a huge trust deficit as far as the BMC is concerned. How can such a prestigious, well-oiled machine fall so sharply down? What went wrong? If you can enumerate a few reasons, what went wrong?
So, I think BMC is a fairly decent organization in terms of what it can do, its capacity. But I think structurally it has some issues. The structural issues are it tries to do too many things. So just imagine, a municipal commissioner is in charge as a whole. Of course, there are additional municipal commissioners also. Water, roads, sewage, all the other services, hospitals. I don't think anybody can really handle that scale of work and do a good job, frankly speaking. Therefore, I think, to my mind, I think a lot of the services need to be broken down. And world over, that's the model. You can't have a departmental level. It's okay for a small, 2 lakh municipality to have these kinds of departmental functions, but not for a corporation which has this size. So roads has to have a specialized agency dedicated only for roads. Right? There has to be a specialized agency only for water. You have the same chief engineer becoming head of roads, head of water. You cannot have that. These are all huge functions. And these are all specialized functions. Just like BST, for example, it's a specialized agency, and as you know,
BST was carved out of BMC.
and it became a separate function. And you know that BMC has really served very well as far as the city is concerned.
Absolutely,
really
undoubtedly.
There's a lot that I think the BMC should do than I think what they're currently doing. I think there's a lot more that needs to be done. BST is really an example of what the other agencies should be doing in terms of water under BMC, in terms of roads, and there are several other functions. So that will itself bring about a whole lot of efficiency. And this dismantling of the functions.
So you take out water, for example, of solid waste management from the direct purview of the municipal commissioner.
And create a separate entity like a separate corporation, you can say, or entity, whose job is to manage them and also see that they manage it within the resources, right? So that having those tight budget controls itself lends itself to a lot of efficiency, which is what is happening in the case of BST also. So I think that structural change needs to be brought about. That's one. The second thing is in terms of permissions and stuff like that. There's a lot of talk about getting permissions and the building permissions, for example. That is where I think a lot of people tend to have a lot of criticism about the BMC. I think doing it on a computerized basis, which is what I think BMC has tried to do, I think is something that needs to be. But here the things don't happen because of a lot of complaint that I have is because there's ability to delay approvals, for example.
Correct.
That is where I think the issues come up. And I think people should use things like the Right to Services Act to see that they're able to get services within the given time. Whether that will completely eliminate the delays that can get caused, I'm not very sure. But at least there's one tool that's available for you to. We had a conference actually where Manu Srivastava, who's the commissioner of in charge of Right to Services Act, came and spoke, and he realized that there are lots of issues even in terms of delivery of services. Like for example, the portal itself was not opening up at times. It was very slow in responding, and to get one permission, you had to actually have obtained 10 permissions.
Correct.
And to get that last 11th permission. So he realized that a lot needs to be done in terms of reforming the systems itself. So. I don't have a first-hand knowledge about how corrupt BMC is, but I think there could be delays, and I think those can be evolved.
Technology can remediate, is what you're saying at some level.
That's one, and secondly, the most important thing is that we need to have a political guy, heading this. Then you can actually go and shout at him and say that you're not delivering this, right?
Correct.
And then his or her political fortunes will depend on what people think about him and the way services, or her, and the way the services are being delivered by his organization. That is where we think people will start making it.
So what I'm hearing from you, or what my understanding is that corruption draws from the power to say no much more than the power to actually do. And therefore it is a tool that will kind of otherwise threaten to delay and to hold on more than anything else. Somewhere it also might seem that corrupt person, if he's taking money at some level, also has to do the job. There's a flip side to it. Corruption is not something that is just inherently unique to India or the BMC. I'm sure there's corruption across the world. How is it linked to efficiency is something that is a puzzle. But I absolutely agree with you about the reform that can only come about through a single point of responsibility within the BMC who is politically empowered.
See, I think why these things happen is because there is wherever there's a monopoly of dispensation of services or goods.
Yes.
There could be delays and there could be possibilities of corruption. And I can tell you that, and this is not you talking about government agencies, but even in the private sector. I worked in the private sector. Wherever there is a monopolistic power, there is a tendency to be corrupt.
Correct.
Okay, so it's got nothing to do with people. It's got something to do with how exclusive those services are, right? So if I'm the only person who's vested with that authority to do something, and I say no to it, there's nobody else
Right.
to whom people can go,
Right.
and therefore they have to somehow satisfy my needs to see that I do those jobs.
Correct.
But supposing if the same powers are given to you or same powers are given to somebody else, and that 10 other people have the same authority to do this, suddenly my power goes away, right?
Correct.
Then I might actually say that why you want to go to him? Why don't you? I'll do it faster for you.
Correct.
Right? So I think opening up multiple channels of services is really very very important. Therefore, we need to somehow dismantle these government monopolies. So if you want to get a particular certificate, like say for example a building certificate,
Right.
Why should only BMC be the only authority which should be?
Right.
Why not have 10 architectural firms who can say that okay,
Right.
these are the laws, within this law this is
Correct.
what can be done, right? If something goes wrong, they are responsible for it.
Right.
So it's possible for us to actually create multiple channels wherein the possibility of these kinds of rent seeking can come down.
Right.
But whether to let go of that power is really
I think there's an inevitability to it. I mean, how long are we not going to embrace technology? Soon these are processes, many of them will have to embrace portals online to make these applications. And across even the government of Maharashtra, there has been a lot of reform. And it's an eventuality, hopefully.
No, it will happen. It will happen. I mean, I remember that in my lifetime itself.
Yeah.
Milk bottles used to be only a monopoly of the government.
Right.
You used to have that silver foil.
Correct, with the orange and the blue.
Yeah, and then there used to be 3 bottles of milk that you could get.
Yeah.
And if you want to get it, then you have to apply to the government and then get the 4th bottle. So that is how. But today, no longer the case, right? You have 100 people wanting to supply the same product.
Right.
And therefore, there's no need for any rent seeking or anything, right? So this is what will evolve. And therefore, I said that, giving more power to the markets, giving more power to the people is what will drive. Just by having more supervisors, by having more anti-corruption agencies, these things are not going to...
These process reforms.
Yeah, it has to be basically more of a liberal... Remove monopolies and you will have a situation change.
Right. Sticking to the BMC as a topic, in the last couple of decades, we've seen a lot of infrastructure projects, but really from the BMC stable, we've not had so many other than the coastal road. You've had agencies like the MMRDA, even the MSRDC giving us the Bandra-Worli Sea Link. There's been all the metro line works that are going on, the Navi Mumbai airport that's come up, so many other projects which are not BMC projects. But the BMC is the urban local body for Mumbai. Yet the MMRDA is also serving the function of an urban local body in Mumbai. If you look at the jurisdiction, some cases the jurisdictions are overlapping in terms of function, and even spatially there are jurisdictions which are overlapping. The MMRDA comes in as a special planning authority and has an island of spatial jurisdiction within, which is surrounded then by the BMC. Now, while both of them are great organizations, what purpose does this serve? What is the need to have these parastatal agencies and 2 urban local bodies working in tandem for essentially the same function?
Yeah. So I think they were having very clearly distinguishable functions. Like BMC is essentially a maintenance function. BMC is not necessarily a big developmental function. MMRDA is much more of a developmental function where it has to have a perspective plan, okay, and it has to develop around it. So you can look at the BKC area. BKC area was developed by MMRDA, and the larger metropolitan region is what MMRDA's remit is. Whereas BMC remit essentially is to manage efficiently what it has. How do you manage the sewage system efficiently? How do you manage the water systems efficiently? How do you see that the city doesn't get flooded? So all of those areas are basically maintenance functions. So BMC is not really mandated with large infrastructure projects except when they're required for the city's maintenance. Okay, so that's how.
But this is a mandate, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it is, because as per what people pay for is not necessarily for the future development, but for what they currently have. That's what they pay for. Now, MMRDA and MSRDC was a different organization itself.
Right.
It was much more of a BOT organization, where it will build and then charge the people for the services and that it provides. So MSRDC has a different function altogether. It was more like a PPP kind of organization, public-private partnership, which will get contracts given to the private organizations. They will charge a toll or whatever fees and they'll recover it out of that. So it needs to have bankable projects. MMRD is more of a body where it needs to build the future in the MMR region, and BMC was much more of a maintenance body. So in that sense, BMC spending on large infrastructure projects is a little beyond its remit to my mind.
Fair enough.
That it was made to do is a different matter, but it's a little...
So coastal road is an exception, really?
I would say it's an exception. So therefore, going forward, if BMC starts doing this kind of thing, BMC might not be able to do its day-to-day function of managing its services within the corporation limits.
By the same breath, the MMRDA also provides basic urban services within Mumbai city. So there is a little bit of an overlap.
So except probably for maintenance of, I think, one of the highways, I don't think MMRDA manages any other services.
Within BKC also?
Within BKC, because that was a separate enclave that was given to MMRD to develop, and they but that's the only separate enclave. But otherwise, as far as BMC areas are concerned, MMRD has got nothing.
So MMRD is state government, BMC is city government.
Yeah.
But this is not the only jurisdictional hodgepodge that we have in Mumbai. There's also central government land, large tracts of central government land. Recently, some railway land was given towards the Dharaviri development project for some feasibility to happen. One of the biggest tracts of central government land, and one of the most important, is the eastern waterfront on which sits the Mumbai Port Trust, the port that built Mumbai. Before it became a financial center, Mumbai's preeminence was because it was the greatest port, and it served Mumbai and India for the longest time. Today, that's not really the case. There are other ports, much larger ports. Even JNPT is a much larger port. So MBPT, Mumbai Port Trust, can really no longer justify its existence as a port, especially given the pressures of development that Mumbai is facing and the needs of Mumbai. That's number one. I remember there was a report called the Rani Jadhav report, if I mistake not, which has been on the anvil for a long time for the redevelopment of the Port Trust lands. If there's such a need, so much pressure for the redevelopment of this land, why has it not taken off for so many years?
So, port land is one of the most valuable pieces of land as far as Mumbai is concerned. And as you rightly said that, Mumbai actually owes its existence. Right? Mumbai actually got created on the back of the port. So it's been a very vital piece of, but now what's happened is that port has kind of become a bit of a burden, I would say, because your port is almost in South Mumbai, right? If you have to transport all the goods that either through the port area or outside the port area, you have to see that they travel through the city. It's not possible. The city cannot really handle that kind of additional load of the port traffic, and that's the reason why the port actually has become a bit difficult to, and the port itself has declined because in terms of its capacity, in terms of what it is doing. So, and they have also been changing the way they handle their cargo. I saw during my tenure the sad development of where two docks, Victoria and Princess docks, were actually being closed, and they were to be converted to basically cargo places where large containers would probably get stored out there. And that was really sad because these were beautiful docks. And those could have been beautiful spaces for urban regeneration, like what happened in Singapore, for example. We tried hard to stop that.
Even London.
Yeah. We tried, Canary Wharf is another example. We tried very hard to prevent that. But at that point of time, the port was absolutely adamant that we need to create containers out there, right? So both Princess and Victoria docks were closed and container yards were created out there. Now imagine what will happen to the containers. The containers have to travel through the city into South Mumbai and get stored and then get onto the ships and move on. And when the ships come here, the containers will have to again get offloaded and then travel through the city. So it is not practical now.
There's inbuilt inefficiency.
That's one.
Yeah.
The second part is that whole lot of other ports have become a lot more efficient than this, right? So in any case, you will probably not get the container traffic. Right. So the ports in Gujarat, JNPT, for example, are much better. But we had, at that point of time, we had suggested an alternative port in Dahanu. Now I think it's coming on board. The expressions of interest are being sought for creating a deep draft port in Dahanu and closing this down or shifting this port into Dahanu.
Right.
Basically, ask this port to function there in Dahanu.
Correct.
Now, see what is the economic justification for a city? Port provided that at that point of time. There were a lot of jobs associated with the port, and because of that, there's a lot of subsequent jobs got created in the services sector. So port became the magnet for formal jobs, and a whole lot of informal jobs got created, and the city got created. Then you had now, after the port declined, then we had the textile industry. Then thereafter we had the financial services, the entertainment, all of that. Those created formal jobs, and a whole lot of informal jobs get created. That's how cities actually get. There's a big strong base which creates formal jobs,
right.
And around that a whole lot of informal jobs get created. Yes. Now today there are three things that we had suggested at that point of time. There was a Percy Mystery Committee report also that came out, and we had said that for Mumbai to keep its preeminence as the international financial center, we need to have three fundamental things. The stock exchange, and we already have 2 stock exchanges here. We need to have commodity exchange, and we already have 2 commodity exchanges here. And we need to have the currency exchange. So in terms of the size, the stock exchange is the smallest. The next bigger is the commodity exchange, and the biggest is the currency exchange. Okay, that currency exchange, unfortunately, Mumbai lost out on the currency exchange, right? That is now gone elsewhere. So getting that back into the city and providing this eastern port for creating that enclave of currency exchange. Currency exchange is where people can freely exchange currencies, even within the physical limits of any particular area. So that I think we need to create.
Correct.
That will create a whole lot of formal jobs, and around that you will have a whole lot of informal jobs. So that was, we wanted also, RBI is here, we wanted SEBI is already here, we wanted the regulator to be here, the insurance regulator to be here. Unfortunately, that went to Hyderabad. So we need to create a kind of concentration of financial institutions here in the city, so that Mumbai can retain its preeminence
or regain it.
And that port area, we feel,
has a lot of potential.
Has a lot of potential for creating that. You can create entertainment, you can create financial center, you can create media. Media, we lost out a lot in the process in the last 20-25 years, because
media has gone to Delhi.
Media has gone to just move to Delhi, but Mumbai was a big media center.
Mumbai is the birthplace of media in so many
but
ways.
Mumbai media doesn't exist in Mumbai anymore. A very small media is there, but it's moved to Delhi. Financial center might also move.
There's an effort.
Out of Mumbai. We lost the diamond market from Mumbai. It's started moving out of this place. We are probably under threat of actually losing even the entertainment business. So
this is an out of syllabus question, but I want to address this. But before we get that, just a very quick one-liner on.
But the point that I'm making is this land that we have. We need to look at this land from the point of view of creating this core of Mumbai, or re-establishing this core of Mumbai as a financial, entertainment and media hub back again.
Right. So there's so many possibilities, right, about what could be, because it's that precious a piece of land. It's also now connected to MTHL seamlessly. But this being central government land, the central government is the owner of the land, quote unquote. How do Mumbaikars not have the first right on this land to determine what its future is? Or can the central government say, I'm the owner, I want to monetize this, I'm going to make this a new high-end CBD or a high-end residential complex, sell it off and make my millions? Or can the Mumbaikars say, no, this land belongs to Mumbai and it must be used for the good of Mumbaikars? How is this decision making? Who really owns it?
So I mean, ownership is of course that of the central government. So, but I will answer this slightly differently, and I'll probably talk about the civil society. When you're saying the Mumbaikars isn't Mumbaikars land, but who's asking for it? Do you see anybody saying that, please talk to us about what you're going to do about this, right? We know of Mahalakshmi racecourse redevelopment. There's not been any discussion with the citizens, right? And no citizen really minds it, frankly. So I don't think there's any. So there is. You're talking about the Mumbaikar. Where is that Mumbaikar? There's no Mumbaikar currently. Nobody is asking these questions. Nobody is interested.
APLI had done a report headed by Meera Sania, late Meera Sania. She did a wonderful job of that. But there has been movement. It's not easy to mobilize people in Mumbai, but I think it does beg the question as to who this resource belongs to.
No, I think it's important. This is one part. I mean, but I think there was when 20-25 years back when we were doing this, there was a thriving civil society. The people who were asking at every step.
Right.
Why are you doing this? Going to the courts, doing this, demanding explanations for that. That I think somewhere has been lost. And I think getting that back is really very important. And not necessarily, people have to fight for it. I think the government itself will be a lot richer in terms of what it can do for the city just by engaging with the citizens. So I had spoken to Mr. Chahal, and I said that why don't you make a presentation about what your plans are for the Mahalakshmi racecourse. But he said we have already discussed with the stakeholders. I said, but aren't citizens also stakeholders? Why don't you present it to the citizens also?
Absolutely.
So I think somewhere we need to look at citizens as a focus, and who should actually then say what is it that they want.
Right.
And because as I said earlier also, it's a people who drive the fortunes of the city, and not the government, and not the officials.
Just to speak from the government side a little bit, so many of their projects, whether it is state government or central government or city government, they come up with opposition. The intention from these organizations is always for the best interest of the city and its citizens. It doesn't mean the project actually will serve that purpose necessarily. But they also must feel tired to say public engagement, and then someone will raise an objection, then there'll be 10 objections raised with that one objection, and it just delays processes. But I think eventually in time we have to move towards a situation where public consultation is not negotiable, and true public consultation.
I was handling this Mumbai project for 5 years. I never felt people to be obstructionists. People have genuine curiosity about, what is it that you're going to do? Is my life going to be better or worse? And legitimately they should be asking those questions. Correct. Right? It's their money that we are spending.
Correct.
Right? So why shouldn't they be asking this question to us? That is my life, because you're spending this money, is my life going to get better or worse?
Right.
That's a legitimate question. It's their money that you're spending, right? So, and I've never felt that, they want to obstruct for the sake of obstructing. If you argue with them, if you discuss with them, if you just tell them that this is the reason why it's being done, then I don't think there's a problem. In fact, they will actually go and tell other people that, look, this is a good project, let them go ahead with it. I find it's a lot more useful to get people involved, because they are the ones who will actually stop the negative people who will obstruct this just for the sake of obstructing it.
Right. But, as much as we have, I have personally at least accused the government of being corrupt, or the BMC of being corrupt, without having hard evidence in my hand. It's just based anecdotal and things like that. Equally, one feels for the BMC and one feels for the MMRDA for their projects, because every citizen is also not going to have, the cleanest objectives. There is a good chance that there's one or two odd elements which are doing this for vested interests, and there is going to be something of an obstructionist objective to some of these, but one has to live with it for the larger good.
So I mean that's how our democracy is structured, right?
Right.
You have to hear the people. Some people might have vested interests,
right,
but most of the people don't necessarily have, right?
Right. Most of them will not, clearly. So now this out of syllabus question, and feel free to answer this in whichever way. I want to call it the big Indian robbery, the theft of Mumbai. Right. It is the Sone ki Chidiya. It has been called that so many times. And what we fail to do, and this is what the government of Maharashtra, I particularly would blame, has failed to do, is to spread the wealth of Mumbai efficiently. Nashik is 160-70 kilometers, Pune is 150 kilometers, and it still takes us 3 hours to get there in 2025. The rest of the world has got light rail, high-speed rail, which is taking them there. In these distances are being covered in half an hour and 45 minutes. The central government decides to literally put a straw into Mumbai and suck out some of its value into Gujarat. However one wants to see it, why this corridor between Mumbai and Ahmedabad is going to send some prosperity from Mumbai to Ahmedabad. Now, there shouldn't be a problem, because prosperity is going from one part of India to the other part of India. Shouldn't Maharashtra have the first right to benefit from the prosperity of Mumbai? That cities like Pune, like Nasik, like Ahmednagar, which could have formed a quadrilateral of sorts, are the first beneficiaries of this Sone ki Chidiya.
So I think I don't look at this issue from parochial sense. I don't really see that. I think if so long as we in this country are able to benefit, we must put our resources where everybody benefits. So I would certainly not think that just because somebody in Gujarat is getting benefited, and therefore we should get that back, and Mumbaikar should benefit. They're all Indians, and I don't really see any difference in that we should not benefit other state, and therefore, but we should also be looking at whether we are proportionately also, what can we do here for our state also, because that's the mandate, political mandate for us. So I think from that perspective, I do agree that that a state which has a city like Mumbai cannot, and Mumbai is in a way an island of prosperity. A lot of Maharashtra is actually pretty backward from a development perspective. So, but for a state to have a city like Mumbai and still some of the areas remain backward is quite a shame, frankly. So,
but isn't that a failure on the part of the state government?
So therefore, unfortunately, we don't even have a vision for Mumbai, and I would think that probably there's not a great deal of vision for Maharashtra. So, where does Maharashtra need to go? What does it have to do? So, for example, the expressways and the highways connecting the nooks and corners of Maharashtra should have happened long time back. Even now, it should be done, because several parts. It's easier to do it now than once they get developed.
Right.
So I think all of that needs to happen today. Mumbai has a lot of resources, not only for Maharashtra, but also for rest of the country. It is not fair to say that Mumbai contributes 21% of the, or 40% of its taxes, because taxes get collected here. It doesn't mean that taxes are generated here. Taxes get collected here. So legitimately, Mumbai cannot say all this 40% should be spent here itself. It's not fair.
It has to
spread. It has to spread, and I have no objection to that. But there are several areas where we can do better for Maharashtra itself, and certainly we can use the resources that we have not only for improvement of the Mumbai metropolitan region, but also for the rest of the state.
Well, I'll give you one example. I mean, first to just correct, I mean, it's not, there's no problem with it going to Gujarat or Karnataka or Goa, which is a neighboring state, you know. You're absolutely right about saying this is one country.
Let me also just make a slide. You know, there was the financial center, for example, now moved to Gujarat. Now, I personally feel that it will serve its purpose a lot more efficiently if it's here in Mumbai, because there's already an ecosystem around it.
Correct.
Right? There's the Reserve Bank of India, there's the State Bank of India, all the financial institutions are here. It will become a lot more efficient being here. And that's what I think. You know, wherever there are greater chances of being more efficient, you should make it happen. Whether it's in Mumbai or elsewhere, it doesn't really matter. But lending, because ultimately the investments that you make give a certain amount of return, which have to be returned back to the people, either in the form of investments, in the form of development. So why should you make investments in suboptimal causes?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, so that is where I think is my.
And I didn't mean to be parochial at all in this sense. I mean, because if you look at Mumbai, it is a absolute melting pot of this country.
Yeah,
and when I say Mumbai, it is every Mumbaikar. When I say Maharashtra,
it's an asset for the country as well. I mean, not just for Maharashtra.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it's a microcosm of India in so many ways. So it's not a parochial angle, but within that, it is still one state. It is still the most industrialized state. There is no, I mean, Mumbai has its linkages across the state of Maharashtra. That's why it is the most industrialized state. I'm saying the physical connectivity is something that so many millions and millions of people would have benefited from. It required a little bit of foresight. Today we are going to reach Ahmedabad in 5 hours in a few years, and we're still going to take 3.5 hours to reach Pune. I think that is something that needs serious introspection on part of whoever now wants to take that as a
So again, I'm saying that I have no complaint about Ahmedabad, but I think my complaint could be, yes, can I reach faster to Pune, can I reach faster to Nasik? Yes, I think that should be my complaint.
Absolutely.
The complaint should not be about Ahmedabad. You know?
I mean, it's just a comparison. It's not a complaint as much as it's a comparison.
Yeah.
You know, 100 crore rupees per kilometer. This whole project would have been some 10,000-15,000 crore rupees, and it's something
and we can certainly do it. I think I'm hoping that this new Samruddhi corridor, I think once it gets completed, I think Mumbai Nasik will become pretty fast.
Right. But anyway, I was going to go. So one very good example is MTHL. MTHL, Mumbai Trans Harbour Sea Link, Sivri Nhava Sheva Sea Link, has been on the cards since 1946, I think, when JRD Tata first proposed it, and it got actualized very recently, finally. And it connects a very important part to a very important part. But once again, you've made a road, you've made this beautiful bridge, the longest sea bridge in India, 22 kilometers, and you've charged a heavy toll. The idea was to decongest Mumbai. That is the principal thought behind this. Now you're decongesting by saying only people who are willing to pay that 275 rupee toll. So again, it's an elitist movement that you're facilitating on that bridge, number one. Number two, the idea was initially to make this a dual carriageway with a metro and a road. If you had put a metro line, in 20 minutes I'm coming from the hinterland into the heart of the city. It would have eased the lives of millions of people who are struggling to meet rents and buy houses in this city and live here. So there's a little myopia, I would feel, but would love to know what your thoughts are on this.
So I had actually had discussions with one of my friends in the government about this, and I told him that charging MTHL toll is actually a wrong idea. So the reason is it taxes people from moving from Mumbai into the mainland, or from mainland back into the island city of Mumbai. So it's not very efficient from an economic point of view. I suggested that there's going to be a huge impact of the Trans Harbour Link on Navi Mumbai in that area. That entire land is going to get opened up. If you just have a surcharge on because already about 50 to 60% increase in land valuations has had as a result of the Trans Harbour Link. We just take a small percentage of that as an impact fee, okay, and use that to finance this. If at all you want to finance this asset, use that. You'll actually earn a lot more money than this. But the advantage would be that because people will start moving freely, the development will happen out there, which is what our fundamental reason for creating this was. It'll earn you the revenues, and it'll probably make this bridge almost free for you from that perspective.
Right.
So I think we need to look at things differently.
Right.
When we start charging people, whether it's going to be something that's going to be beneficial for that area, or it's going to be something that's going to prevent that area from developing. And currently, I think by charging tolls, it's neither going to meet the requirements
Correct.
of the debt requirements.
It's already falling short of the projections.
Possibly, but you have a huge avenue available to. Through impact fees to raise money.
I think it's an excellent suggestion, and it helps develop the area also.
Some
of it could also actually go towards area development.
Yeah. Also, it's possible, to my mind, I think, and obviously some technical studies could be done for that. To even on the existing road itself, one lane can be used for developing light rail,
Right.
which can then carry people, commoners, from across the creek
Right.
to the city and back.
Right.
So it's possible to do that. I think all that we need to probably do is some study. But a light rail would probably be able to
Would make a humongous difference. And it can. You're saying it can be retrofitted. We can fit a retrofit, perhaps a light rail on this.
Yeah. You just need to see whether the capacity of can handle that load or not.
Right.
So whether it has the capacity to
Right.
to take the loads of a light rail system.
Right.
That needs to be studied. I think it should be able to.
Correct. I think MTHL is one of the signature mega projects. We'd have several. We kind of touched upon this, but just once to get your view on this. Several mega projects in the city, lakhs of crores of rupees. How does one look at the pyramid of value that is received? You have the marginalized majority that we've discussed, 6 out of 10 in the slums. You have that top 1-2% who are the uber multi-millionaires in the city. Something which is road infrastructure, which is toll or non-toll even, is benefiting the car-owning population. And then you have people within the slums who need slum sanitation, who need, like, our sewage collection network only is not the most optimal one. Our sewage treatment plants are not optimal. Our waste collection is not optimal. Our education and healthcare can do. So when I'm spending lakhs of crores of rupees on road transport, how do I justify it? Within the state, the powers that be, the state government, the city government, is there a process of justification?
So I'll give you a very interesting example, and that example was we actually did a small talk about BMC's budget, and in the same budget we found that almost about 14,000 crores being spent on the coastal road. But we also saw that the allocation for maintenance of graveyards, for example, these smashan bhumis, is just 2 crores. And anybody goes to, for the last rites of their near and dear ones, that place is so depressing. It's broken. Most of the time we're using wood for burning out there. The electric crematoriums are not working. So I found it in terms of priorities, it requires just maybe another 2 crores to just improve the conditions out there. The last journey can be from a better place of Mumbai cars. So just to give a small example of what priorities are. But here on the larger projects, I feel that every time a large project comes up, and we like making those splashes and showing that we are doing those large projects, we need to evaluate who is it going to benefit.
Right.
And I feel that in some sense the coastal road is not really a very good example of that.
Right.
Because you see it's probably going to help car owners to travel much faster. Most of the time, commoners are not going to, the buses and people who are taking the trains are not going to be traveling in those. So we have, in a way, subsidized the car owner, the rich, relatively. But there are several projects. We can improve the local train system. We can improve the stations. We can improve we can add more metro rail systems,
right,
which will have a focus on public mode of transport rather than private mode of transport. World over, people now know if you improve roads, it's going to add more cars.
Absolutely.
So you need to always have a strategy by which roads will always be at a premium.
Right. Right.
And therefore, even now, I think there should be some kind of a congestion pricing should be there on these roads, which should be able to generate some resources on this, so that we don't necessarily get the better off away from just having a free ride over there.
Right.
And the rich end up paying a lot more
Right.
because the public transport system is broken.
Correct. Even our parking policy here.
BST, for example,
Yeah.
and BST is crying for help.
Correct.
And BMC is, along with the suburban rail system, is the other lifelines of the city.
Absolutely. And even something like the suburban rail system, a person who's predominantly the majority of them are traveling in second class. The majority of them are pass holders. These are people who are traveling at 15-20 paise per kilometer on average. For them, even the metro is not affordable because the metro's ticket will start today. I know it starts at 10 rupees, but the AC metro, the underground metro, I beg your pardon, would have slightly higher tariffs, the longer travel. So even today tickets for return journey are as high as 75 rupees. This is not affordable to the everyday traveler who's paying in paise. Even that is somewhere an elitist, relatively not common man mode of transport. But one can understand that a metro would help decongest the roads as a justification.
So let me, because we had this discussion. I think a world-class city is where the rich travel by public mode of transport. You have to get people out of the cars and get them to travel in the public mode of transport. And then the roads also become a public mode of transport. Today, roads have become a private mode of transport. Okay, so if you want to get people out of the roads, out of their cars, you need to create a good system for metros as well, off metros, where they will travel. A lot of them who are currently congesting the local trains also will move into those areas, into the metro system also,
right,
which also decongest the suburban local systems as well. So those who can pay will move into the metro. They'll move out of the cars and move into the metros and start charging the places like Coastal Road, so that it becomes a little more expensive for people to take the road.
Right.
So they'll move into the public mode of transport. So vacating space for people is really what I think which is the reason why we justified the metro at that time, and we must have more of metros.
Right.
We felt that even the suburban local trains also should become like metros. They should also become air conditioned. They should also become smooth. So a lot of the technological changes have already happened,
right,
but we need to actually make all of them more comfortable than what they currently are.
As I suspected, our conversation is just going to.
Yeah.
But I just want to come in on this point as well that you just made. And isn't it strange that the alignment of the Western Railway, which now is running AC trains where there's a lot of demand, is almost identical or more or less parallel to the Aqua Line? And they just decided that we're going to do this. And while the Aqua Line, before it began construction, or just when it began construction, it's going to start operations sometime soon for the full length. It now has a railway line running parallel to it, essentially providing the same service, comfortable transportation in an air-conditioned mass transport rail service. And you have now replicated two services along the same line. It's very interesting to see now whether they're going to have to compete against one another in terms of pricing, and these are interesting questions. But these are also thoughts about planning. Saying, why didn't you all sit across the table and have this conversation? Anyway, there's no point in getting too deep into this. We'll come back to the BMC. BMC has been without an elected government for now 2 years almost, and nobody seems to have a problem. Like, nobody is bothered. No big political party is making a hue and cry beyond a point. No big NGO or citizens group is kind of talking about it. The media doesn't seem to really care about it either. Are we just okay? The BMC is functioning pretty much okay. The only difference is that everyone is bashing the BMC. All political parties and all groups and everybody is now able to bash the BMC because there's no elected representative there. Other than that, the BMC seems to be functioning reasonably well. I mean, not very differently from how it otherwise functions. So it begs the question, does the BMC need elected representatives at all? Can we just do away with this process of elections?
No, I think, of course, it's now mandated by the 74th constitutional amendment also that all local bodies, in fact, democracy is the fundamental principle on which the country, the local economies, the local self-governments work. So therefore, having PMC without an elected body is, to my mind, I think is is not desirable. We need to have, and I mentioned earlier also that the fortunes of any city or a country is driven by people and people's representatives. It's not driven by bureaucrats. So in that sense, I feel that howsoever you might criticize the political leadership or whatever it is worth, but ultimately they are the ones who are accountable. And they are the ones who have every 4 years or 5 years, they have to vacate their seat in case they don't perform, right? So there is a certain amount of accountability. A person like me who's a bureaucrat, once he gets into the service, nobody can, unless I do something terribly wrong, nobody can really throw me out for 40 years. But that's not the case with political leaders, and they're accountable to the people. So I think, it's, and as I said, it's not even for me, it's not an opinion, it's constitutionally mandated.
Correct.
But what I'm surprised about, as you rightly said, is that people are okay about it. And I don't know why people are okay about it. Frankly, I might have some answers about it, but I don't know whether I can mention those answers here. But I'm surprised myself. But it's not a desirable thing at all.
I think somewhere, if I can be so bold to say, that it reflects a lack of faith and lack of trust within the government, within the municipal government, between the citizens and the government, and also increasingly a lack of dependency, where people are sending their children to private schools, they're taking their treatment in private hospitals, they're relying more on private transport, modes of transport, and their dependency on the city government also has over the years, not by choice, reduced.
Possibly that could be one reason. So you think that the people don't care at all?
I don't think people care sufficiently, especially if you come from a more elite class, or even a middle class, upper middle class. It's the people who are dependent on services.
No, therefore we need to change the. I would say that if at all you have a directly elected mayor, this will become. I don't think people would not be interested in this.
Correct.
Because then this will be a place which is worth fighting for.
Right.
Today people feel that the way the setup is probably doesn't make a difference on their view.
Right.
So you need to change the setup also, where people also feel a lot more interested or a lot more invested in this organization.
Right. I think that the BMC is able to function so well is it's a well-oiled machine. It's got some amazing people working in there, the engineers who have a very big mandate. They're doing a wonderful job to keep this city functioning. Of course, at the helm of this is the bureaucrat. You mentioned the bureaucrat just now. And you mentioned the difference is that there's the elected representative has a responsibility which he or she can't take for granted beyond her or his term. The bureaucrat is different from that. And in the recent past, Maharashtra has had its kind of interesting engagement with bureaucrats. Particularly in Pune, there was this one case of this lady, Pooja Khedkar, from the IAS cadre, and there was some news about report of abuse of power and things like that. And these have also, you must admit, become synonymous with bureaucrats in India. There was some case of somebody walking their dog in a otherwise athletic facility or something of that sort. In one of our previous episodes, we discussed this. And it's unfortunate because we know that there have been some shining, outstanding examples of bureaucrats, particularly in Maharashtra, particularly in Mumbai, who've done some amazing work over the years. Bureaucrats impact the entire population of India when they occupy those offices for those 4 to 5 years, and then they rotate. This rotation part is something I want to talk to you about. It would seem inherently inefficient that, let's again take the BMC for example, somebody comes in as a commissioner, is there for 5 years. He has to come in or she has to come in. So far it's only been he has to come in, hopefully that changes. That there's a learning curve, it will take up some time. There's a job transfer or a exit curve, which also takes up some time, some momentum, some interest. And the policies instituted by the previous, or the policies processes instituted by his predecessor or her predecessor need not be taken up, are often not taken up. There's a lack of continuity. There's a seemingly inherent efficiency. I'm happy to hear your views on this. But in the case of the bureaucrat, how can this whole process be made a little more efficient? How can it be made a little more accountable, particularly in organizations like the BMC?
So I think you mentioned two, from what you asked me, I think I'm taking two questions. So one is, you talked about this example of an unfortunate example of an IAS officer, and second is, you felt that the bureaucrats themselves occupy a particular position for such a short time. How can you justify that they'll be able to do something worthwhile in those positions over a period of time? Were these your two questions, or?
Yeah, it is not as much about worthwhile. There's no question about the value that a bureaucrat brings or the ability of the bureaucrat. I'm just saying that there's the inherent inefficiency. Saying now your term is over, now you go. You may be doing a fantastic job, and now you have to go somewhere to a different geography of your state and do maybe something completely different.
Yeah. So I think the first one, I think, is I feel that media has a lot to be blamed for the current state of affairs, and I'm seeing suddenly on YouTube videos how a collector arrives in the office and what kind of rhubarb the collector has, what does IAS officer, and their weddings are getting now. IAS is not a elite service. It's basically meant for serving people. You have to have people with a certain amount of empathy. You have to have people who are committed to, and you're actually supposed to be faceless, nameless entities. Okay. Suddenly, media in this movie called whatever that name was has suddenly glamorized this whole thing. The reason why, frankly speaking, it's not a tough exam. It's a relatively easy exam. The reason it's tough to get into it because a large number of people apply for it. So only a few people can get in. Per se, the exam is not tough, but only since there are a small number of people can get in, therefore only that many people can be allowed. So I feel that this is really overhyped. I think we need to tone this down. A lot of youngsters should know fully well that this is not a glamorous service. You will have to go into the villages. You will have to see a lot of muck. You will have to try to do something about it. You will have to go into tribal areas. You will have to go into the houses of the tribals and the poor and the scheduled castes, and you will have to see what you're going to do about it. It's not about that you have a 5-star wedding, or you will have a light shining and coming to the office. All this is a complete misrepresentation of the service. That is not what the service is. It is actually a service, and a lot of people unfortunately are coming thinking that I'm going to get this glamour out of it. It is not the case. The fact today is that you're a bureaucrat. You are supposed to carry out the will of the people through the political representatives. They are the ones who hold a lot of authority. Okay?
Right.
You're executing that authority. If you are misplaced that you hold all the authority, it's incorrect. And if at all you feel, then what a lot of people start thinking is that to have the authority, they'll start using authority negatively.
Which is why there's no smoke without fire.
Yeah, so they start using the authority because they feel that they have the power, but they don't actually seem to think that they have power. Then they will actually say no to people, right? But they can actually do something. Right. So power can actually be essentially created out of negativity.
Right.
But if your power to do something positive actually somehow, unfortunately, doesn't remain power.
Correct.
Okay. So it's only people start looking at power very differently, and they try to create that power by being very exclusive, by being selective in terms of dispensation of whatever permissions or whatever they give. So this is where I think the misuse of power starts happening, and that I would say I would place on the doors of the media, which they for whatever reason they have created a hype which is not correct.
I mean, they vilified the bureaucrat. That's fair to say. I mean, that's how the media tends to kind of exaggerate everything.
They can also vilify it. Also, that it's one time they'll take you up, and then the next time they'll bring you down to the earth. That's a different matter.
I think that just lived experiences of so many people. It's not easy to access bureaucrats in positions of power, to reach them, number one. There seems to be often some cases of just high-handedness in dealing with the common man and common man's complaints and needs. The IAS as a service, you've seen it from the inside out, from the highest positions. Do you feel that there's any need for reform as far as the IAS in India is concerned, number one? Secondly, how vulnerable is the bureaucrat to technology? If we are discussing that jobs are going to be vulnerable to technology, service jobs are going to be vulnerable to technology, big data, Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence, all coming together to help with planning tools and things like that. How vulnerable is the IAS service? What do you see as the future of the IAS service if you can extrapolate for 10 years? And what would, if at all, the reform? You mentioned one word, empathy. Now, is there some way of teaching empathy to a bureaucrat in the formative years? And I know I've asked
Actually,
many
you can
questions.
get people with empathy in the service, right? So you might not be able to create empathy, but you might be able to get people with empathy in the service. And it may be possible to identify people with empathy who can get into the service process. Maybe there could be a different way of, but I think in terms of IAS, I think was in some ways creation of a different kind of a government, which wanted to have its hold over the people. So in that sense, it wielded some authority over people, right? And that continued, I think, for a long time, where bureaucrat still sees himself or herself as somebody wielding authority.
It's a colonial hangover.
And not necessarily somebody who looks at it as a facilitator of people's growth. And as I said earlier also, that what we need to do is we need to actually step out of the way and let people grow. But the power doesn't really allow you to do that, right? Power will say that every time you would come to me for taking my permissions, right? And therefore we hold them back. And then in the fear of losing power, I don't want to let those powers also go.
Right.
So I think that needs to change. And I had mentioned this earlier in some other forum, that we don't need enormously bright guys in the service. We need people, strong common sense, basic intelligence, strong empathy, okay, integrity. Integrity is probably the most important thing that you can bring about. And then who really are not really materialistic. कि मुझे ये चाहिए, गाड़ी चाहिए, मुझे light चाहिए. I need to have a plush office. So those who will see the problems of the people as their problem and try to solve those. So our entire system of selection has to get oriented towards choosing the right kind of people who will be able to deliver that. Not necessarily the brightest. Today, our system is more involved in getting the most brightest people. But that is not really required out here. And I feel sometimes it becomes counterproductive. I've seen in some of my, that an impossible solution wherein we actually need to get away. A bright guy will say that, why doesn't it work? In spite of me being here, why doesn't it work? And they'll try to somehow keep the broken system going.
Correct.
Whereas somebody who's more practical will say, this system doesn't work, why don't we just dismantle it and get something else which works?
The IAS is designed today to screen for intelligence.
Yeah.
I guess it would be more challenging to screen for integrity and empathy, but these are
but it's worth trying, right? It's worth trying. It's worth trying because they're going to be there in the system for 35 years. And if you have these two attributes somehow, found and a way of finding those, it could really work wonders.
Amazing. I think you mentioned the word fear a couple of times in terms of power. And I feel somewhere that there's a trust deficit between the citizens, that the citizens feel towards just generally the government machinery and everything that's associated with it. That fear has also brought about an erosion in the voice of society. I remember you just some time back were saying that we used to have a lot of engagement with people which we don't have today. There is an erosion clearly, and that erosion is not, maybe some of it is apathy, but some of it is also fear. And if you look at the big organizations in Mumbai as well, NGOs and think tanks even, none of them have opposed any government projects and initiatives overtly, any which way. And also that must stem from some kind of a fear. Seems like a dangerous trend in a democracy. What are your thoughts on this?
So, in fact, I'm also wondering why the civil society is not as active as it used to be. So, and whether it is fear or whether it's just people are not interested anymore. And that's even worse, I would even prefer fear, frankly, than people becoming now totally disconnected with what's happening. So I think I'm not very able to make out whether it's fear or perhaps there is a little bit of fear because people might think that somebody will come back and do something to me if I raise my voice. That could be the case. But I haven't seen that happening to too many organizations where somebody is legitimately raising issues and somebody has come down heavily on them. I've really not seen that happening as yet. But I feel that indifference is something that I'm seeing now. And perhaps that's got to do with we probably have lesser number of NGOs who are now engaged in civic activities. Perhaps they don't have the resources now to take this forward, or in this hubris of growth and everybody doing financially better, that they think that rather than wasting my time in this space, might as well just join the mainstream and earn more money for myself.
Right.
That might be happening, I don't know. But the fact is that we need to have more civic engagement. We need to have more actively engaged civil society, which is not happening today.
Speaking of civil society,
And I think the government also needs to encourage them and needs to then involve them more and more proactively, and give them the confidence that we're not really going to get after you just because you raise some issues.
like, the government can get cold feet also. This decade has also seen the rise of urban contestations like never before. In this city particularly, a city which is known for the apathy of its citizens towards so many things to do with the city, suddenly there was a lot of momentum. You look at the RA metro car shed at RA, so many people came in, and they weren't all environmental experts and wildlife experts. They were citizens who felt ownership, who felt connectedness to the city, and who felt threatened, and they came in to save RA as a campaign. Similarly, for the coastal road, there was a lot of momentum saying, it was, for me, I think just to look at it, it is the essence of democracy. You're coming forward, you're raising your voice at the right forum. Many people also look at it as this caused a lot of loss, that the entire delay in the RA project, or maybe even the coastal road, I don't know how it panned out, caused loss, monetary loss, and ultimately it's the public exchequer that pays. So at one end there is a healthy democracy functioning, at the other end there is obstructionism also coming into play.
But that's a cost of a democracy. I think we have to accept that as a cost of democracy. That there has to be, it cannot be that citizens should not have a voice just because of efficiency, because in the whole process you might have highly inefficient solutions also. That also could be a wasteful expenditure. So I think having the voice of the people, I think, is really very important.
Right. I think beyond obstructionism and beyond protesting and contestations, there's a positive engagement with the citizens that's also required.
Yeah.
When the government does that, I'm sure it will be something that's very successful and very worthy. In the meantime, there are a lot of private efforts that are going on. You are now part of Mumbai First, which is a think tank in the city, and as part of Mumbai First, you have something called the Sustainability Forum, which is for direct engagement with everyday Mumbaikars on issues like climate change and related issues of terrestrial aquatic pollution.
So I think what now we are doing is, earlier the government, Mumbai First, everybody worked together on creating this vision for Mumbai, in which I think several infrastructure projects have either come up or in the process of getting completed. So it's a lot of stuff that happened in the last 20 years. But we see a clear indication that in the next 20-25 years, Mumbai's sustainability itself is going to be under threat. We're already seeing today, if you see the storm can create kind of waves on say near the Gateway of India, which virtually floods the road around the Taj Hotel and the Gateway of India. Similar on Marine Drive, similar in the other Chowpatties, and similar probably in Juhu and these areas. So the sea is going to, the sea level rise is going to create a pretty difficult situation for the city of Mumbai. A lot of areas are likely to get submerged because of sea level rise, and more importantly, the wave actions, because the waves actually then start eating into the shoreline. And sometimes it scares me when I see the waves crashing against the walls near Gateway of India. And the walls are actually the only barrier. If one brick out of that falls, we'll have the entire thing coming down. So it actually scares me quite a lot when I see those. And we need to work on the solutions for those. One is to reduce the wave action on the shoreline. and two is to see that the sea level rise does not inundate significant portions of Mumbai. You also know that a lot of Mumbai is actually reclaimed land.
Half of it is reclaimed.
Half of it is reclaimed,
Yeah.
and therefore we have this real fear is there.
Right.
So there are solutions to that, and what kind of infrastructure we need to create, what kind of existing infrastructure that needs to be retrofitted. So we're working on that. So
How do the
that's
citizens come into this?
So what we're now doing is we are creating this forum, Mumbai Forum. We are getting almost we have the Housing Society Welfare Associations as a part of us. We are now doing something called Mumbai Happenings series, where we talk about these issues. So on the 21st of August, we have the Consul General of Netherlands is going to speak about living below the sea level. Because Netherlands, almost 1/3 of their country has lived below the sea level for more than 100 years. How did they manage? What are the learnings that we have? So, and we are opening up these forums for people to understand what are we talking about.
Right.
So, and we'll create this platform wherein we'll start engaging with the people, not only from the point of view of telling people what exactly is likely to happen, but how are we going to prevent it from happening, okay? And what is it that we need to do? For example, on climate change, what are we going to do in terms of reducing air pollution, the heat island effect we're going to do, right?
Very important topic.
Then how are we going to reduce floods in some of our neighborhoods?
Right.
So, and then how are we going to make the buildings that we are living in more sustainable from the point of view of recycling of wastewater, rooftop rainwater harvesting. There are several things that we are having discussions with the Indian Green Building Council, and we're going to try and get housing societies to adopt those guidelines to see that those cities start becoming green, so that we can handle issues like heat island effects and stuff like that.
Right.
The city actually has the poorest are going to be most vulnerable.
Always.
Because we are now sitting at the moment in an air-conditioned environment. But what this air conditioning does is that it throws out heat.
Correct.
And it's a commoner who's outside, doesn't have the air conditioner, right? He actually faces that heat.
More heat,
right?
absolutely.
So what kind of technological changes that we can bring about so that we don't put our problem on somebody else's shoulder, right?
Right.
So that is what we need to. How do we see that we're able to move towards more electric mode of transport?
Right.
To see that the pollution as well as the heating of the city actually can be reduced.
Right.
So this is a forum in which we're going to get businesses, we're going to get citizens and the government on the same platform, and work together with all of them to see that we're able to create a much better and more sustainable future for ourselves.
Right. So for viewers, if you're listening in, as you engage with the Mumbai Manifesto and the YB Chavan Center, please also engage with Mumbai First and its Sustainability Forum, particularly if you live in vulnerable areas on the waterfronts. If you have a housing society, this is a great place to come and find out some information. You can plan for the future. You can contribute to vision building and work together with Mumbai First in the face of impending climate change. Moving on a personal note, I think yours is a very unique career trajectory. Of course, you're beginning with your education trajectory and then moving from the IAS, moving to Tata Realty, heading Tata Realty, moving to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and now finally to Mumbai First. Uniquely, you've been in a position to look at India from all perspectives, right? And in each perspective from a position of power. From understanding urban from these different perspectives to make it work, I'd like if you could share some of your thoughts on this, share some of your journey and some of your thoughts, some of your learnings, because really your profile is something that is very, very unique and very potent to really bring about change in a city. So
again, I'd mentioned this a little earlier also. I said that after having seen the government from close quarters, the private sector from very close quarters, and the philanthropic sectors, I have now come to this conclusion that if at all we want to bring about a transformative change, we have to stop standing in the way of the people. We need to we have to start looking at people as one of our greatest resource, and start facilitating their growth, and not tell them what they should be doing. and not spoon feeding them. So, and I find that we still are in that kind of a colonial mode where we tell them that we know what is best for you. So I think that is something that needs to happen, and the way to make that happen is through education, and make it more affordable, and make it qualitatively a lot better. I think that's something that, and the second thing I would say is primary health, because that's another thing which I learned during my stint with the Gates Foundation, is that one of the reasons why people fall into abject poverty is because of the cost of health.
Right.
So, or cost of ill health, so to put. Most of the people then end up selling their lands, or taking big loans on themselves, and then they actually get sucked into poverty. So a lot of people actually come out of poverty but get sucked back into poverty because of healthcare burden. So one is public health, because and we need to really think about the public health system very, very closely. There has to be three-layer public health system. First is, of course, is a public health where people don't fall sick, right? The secondary care is where people can just go and check their own health records. Like, I have a fracture, I have some bandage to do, I have some hypertension, so go to a primary health care facility. And then the second is, the last one is a tertiary care facility. So, but what happens today, if you go to St. George's Hospital, for example, even for a small illness, people go to a tertiary care.
The PHCs have...
You go to KM Hospital, same as the case, right? So one is the job of the government to see that first people don't fall ill.
Right.
So public health is very important.
Right.
Therefore, air pollution is very important, right? Quality of water is very important. Quality of food that we consume is very important.
Right.
So people should not fall ill is the first responsibility of the government.
Right.
That is through public health system.
Correct.
The next one is a system by which people can take charge of their own health, to see that they don't, if there are potential signs, they're able to control it right in the beginning itself. And third is, in case something goes, a third gate is where you go to a KM hospital or a St. George's Hospital if you have slightly more serious ailment.
Right.
So that's the way the system should.
Right.
This is an area where I think the cities and all the governments have to work quite a lot in transforming the public health system.
I think
or the healthcare system.
So this is, one of our next sessions is going to be on healthcare. We're hoping to have Dr. Avinash Supe, who's the former dean of KM Hospital, with us. And I deliberately left health out from the discussion, because there's so much to discuss. But of course, I mean, in terms of health, even public open spaces matter in terms of preventive.
Yes,
are you allowing people to walk and breathe in good
What
air?
quality of life
like this, all this. But this whole tier of primary, secondary, and tertiary, and making sure people go to the right place at the right occasion is a big part of the challenge. We could have spoken on so many things. There's healthcare, there's transport, there's public transport, there's planning, and we did touch on a lot of topics. I have one question left for you. You are so uniquely placed to understand so many things about what it takes to run a country successfully, a city successfully at a micro level, a state. You've been at all levels, all tiers. You understand all the stakeholders from the inside, their perspectives from the inside, how they engage with each other. You understand people and the needs of people. Have you never considered getting into politics yourself?
So I actually did. So I did, and there was a political party which approached me to join them, and I thought about it quite a lot. And there were 2-3 things and I feel that whether I'll fit into that kind of politics and whether I'll be able to make a difference, because ultimately, if I join politics, then it has to be for the purpose of making a difference. So, and in some ways, both are interlinked. Whether I'll fit in and whether I'll be able to make a difference. I don't think I'll be able to fit in. The reason is, I personally feel that politics is not a place of profit. And therefore, people who are career-oriented politicians will not be able to expect too much out of it, because for them, careers and their own well-being becomes important, and therefore, what they do for the country and what they do for people becomes of secondary importance. So therefore, you'll probably need to have a different class of political leaders who actually are going to be occupying those positions not for themselves, right? I would almost call them monks, So, are you going to be willing to be a monk where you're going to be there only selflessly, working in that position where even where you don't get a light wala gadi, you don't get all the trappings of power that you have, but you are just accountable for what you do. You won't put your hands in the till, which is really not your money, but it's the people's money. I don't know whether I would like to be that, frankly, but I don't think there's a place for somebody like that in the political system currently. So I was even wondering whether there's a possibility of creating this kind of a political system where people will just come in and say that, look, I just want to devote my 5 years. I want to make a difference, and I will go back and do whatever kheti I was doing or business I was doing. Right? But these 5 years, I will not touch anything that is not mine. Okay, I will not put in my hands in the government coffers and make money for myself, and I will just do whatever is in the best interest of the people. Okay, that I don't know whether there will be people who will be willing to do that, or people after willing to do that, whether they'll come back and get corrupted. I don't know, frankly, and on the other hand, whether people would even want somebody like me, I'm not very sure. Because now with power and resources, people can do anything. People could have a smearing campaign against you. And whether I have a thick skin for it, I don't think I have a thick skin for it.
Well, that's a personal question that you must answer. It is more about your unique abilities, your experience to be able to deliver something of substance, cross-sectorally, holistically, that very few people have. That's why I asked the question. I do hear you on the point of integrity, on the corruption associated with position of power once that position of power is attained and what it does to people. But it's been an incredible conversation. Before you go, and we let you go really, we've held you captive here. Hopefully we'll have civic body polls sometime soon, perhaps after the Vidhan Sabha, hopefully by the end of the year. For a city that hasn't historically voted in large numbers, what is your message to the citizens of Mumbai? From Sanjay Ubale, the Mumbaikar, what is your message to the citizens of Mumbai?
So I think I'll just tell them to show up, So because if you don't show up, somebody else will show up. So, and that's probably going to be at a huge cost to you. So to every Mumbaikar, my wish for them is that if you want the city to be a city of your choice, then you just show up at the polling booth and then vote for whosoever you think is best suited for meeting your needs. But showing up is really what is important in democracy.
It's been an incredible session, albeit a very extended session. We've discussed so many things about Mumbai and we could have gone on and on and on. Hopefully we'll have you back sometime soon. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been humbling. There's been so much learning. Mr. Sanjay Ubale, thank you for coming to the Mumbai Manifesto.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.